Hey, I'm Tommy Chong. Welcome to High on Homegrown.
Yes, everybody, and welcome to this week's Grow Guides from High on Homegrown, the cannabis podcast from Percy'sGrowroom.com. This week's Grow Guides, we talk about scrogging. That means screen of green. This is where you use a screen like a net or a grid above your plants to train them and keep a nice, even, level canopy. And this is much more efficient for indoor grow lighting to make sure all parts of the plant get an even amount of light throughout the whole lot of the grow tent, so no space is wasted. It's very efficient, a great way to grow your plants indoors, and we're going to explain everything you need to know throughout these grow guides here. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you learned something from it, and of course there's all the grow guides which we've done in the past where you can go back and refer to any of the subjects that we've done beforehand, or if you know somebody who wants to learn how to grow their own cannabis too, then you can tell them to go to episode 1, and our Grow Guide series will teach them everything they need to know to be able to produce their own supply of cannabis. So make sure you share these episodes with friends if you know anybody who wants to learn how to grow, and of course refer them to Percy'sGrowroom.com if they need any help as well. And if you are not a member of Percy's Grow Room already, then head over there and sign up too. It'll be good to see you over there. So anyway, for now, this is Grow Guides all about scrogging cannabis plants. Enjoy. I'll speak to you at the end of this. So this week, scrogging, aka screen of green. When you're growing indoors, pretty much you want to try and keep your plant the same distance away from the light all around. To prevent your plant from getting too tall, you try and low stress train them, like we spoke about last week, so they keep a flat, level canopy. So the whole plant is just the same height away from the light. But a screen of green is a real easy way to do the low stress training, because instead of using string and everything to tie down each branch, you're going to have a grid over the top of your plants, so you can train them into that instead. So you don't have to tie anything down at that point, and you just train it into a screen. Now, when we say screen, we're talking about something like a net with square gaps in it throughout the whole net, and you just put that above your plant and you train the plant as it grows, and just keep tucking it underneath the net to the next square to stretch out and keep it as flat as possible. So, Monkey, you ever done a scrog?
I have done a scrog. It's a very easy and efficient way to do a tent. It does take a little bit of work up front, but once you're into flower, when that scrog is set up, it's pretty much just cruising after that. Willie definitely has a ability to increase your yield, because it's going to give you a tent full of nice level flat buds if it's done right.
What about you, Mike? Is this something you've tried in the past?
It is actually. Yeah,
Cool.
we used to always put it up when we did our bigger indoor grow.
It looks beautiful when it's full, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Really impressive looking stuff.
What about you, Bubble Hawk? Have you done this?
Yeah, once or twice. I train a lot LST, so I mean I can generally get them fairly bushy out. So, but if I'm going to be running photos and I'm going to be doing a full 10 of photos, yeah, I'll scrog it.
Yeah, man. What about you, TG?
No. When I first bought like my 4x4, it came with a screen, so I put it in there, but it wasn't actually like you doing anything. It just was there.
Yeah.
So no, I don't tend to do that, because I usually grow like a lot of plants, so I don't need to.
Well, one of the big downsides to scrogging is once the plants are trained into that scrog, you're not removing them. So, you can't take them out the tent again. You can't clean in the tent. You have to clean around everything. But once they are in that screen and have began to flower, you can't take them out. So
I think that's the biggest negative to me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, especially for guys like me in the UK, it's always a concern, because at any time it's like, we've got to come around doing an electricity check all the sockets in your house to make sure that they're safe. And it's like, fuck, I've got a 6 week scrog. He's got like 4 weeks left on it. These motherfuckers want to come and check all the plug sockets in my house. Can't move these plants, ruins the whole thing. You have to chop it all down and get rid of it. There's nothing you can do. So yeah, there is that one detriment to it, but there's not many really. I think it's a real easy way to grow, and it massively increases your yield. and increases the quality of the buds as well, because you don't get that lower down the laugh, the popcorn buds, the buds that are a little immature. You know, you just have nice solid colors across the whole screen.
Yeah, and say if you're restricted, like if you can't, like I do, sometimes I grow 9 or 12 plants in my 4x4. That's in place, like you said, places like you, that's super risky. So keep it down to 4.
Yeah, 4 plants into a scrog.
Something like that. It's much more efficient doing a scrog to fill out your canopy. So definitely.
So let's talk about the best ways to scrog. I mean, first off, you don't want to do it on tiny plants. You let them grow for a few weeks first. If they're from seed or it's a cutting. When I do it, I like to let mine go for about. I'll do a couple of weeks and then top them at the 3rd or 4th node. I always top my plants, and then I'll let that grow up a little, and then and about 4 or 5 weeks in, I'll put the screen on top of them. Then I'll just be tucking there for a few weeks. So it's really easy to do. The type of screen you want to be looking at, you'll see screens online that are pretty much nets, and they're made out of string or fiber of some kind, and you mount that above the plants. But you'll be surprised how strong cannabis plants are, and they would just push that fucking net upwards, and it doesn't have as much resistance against the plant as you really need to get a nice level canopy. So what I like to use is a metal screen. It's a metal grid. It's got the squares in it, like just shitload of squares. And they're 3.5 centimeters by 3.5 centimeters each square, and it goes 4 foot one direction, 4 foot in another direction, and that's perfect. A piece of fencing can work well, but you want the spacings to be pretty big, but not too big at the same time. I think 3.5 centimeters is just about perfect. What kind of screen do you use, Bubble Hawk?
Oh, I make my own. When I do it, I just use a bit of PVC pipe, and I'll just basically grid it up with some builder's line.
Nice.
So it's basically string line. But I find, I mean, depending on the strain and on the plant growing and what level it's at, I prefer to use something that's got a bit of flexibility in the wire, mainly because it's quite easy for it to snap and push its way through. And so for me, having a little bit of movability around on those squares is always good.
What about you, Monkey? What do you use?
Pretty much similar to what Bubble Hawk does. I don't scrog a 4x4. I'm doing more of a 2x4 scrog. And if you have a smaller, narrower net like that, you can get plenty of tension in the strings that you're not going to have a problem with the plants pushing it out the way. So I just basically will build a 3/4 inch Schedule 40 PVC frame and string that with butcher's twine. And then when I'm done, cut the twine, pull it out, take the plants. We're done.
Nice and easy.
Yeah. Nice and easy. Yeah.
But what did you used to use, Marge, when you did your big grows?
It was like a roll of, I want to say it's sort of plasticky. It seemed plasticky. I don't know what it was, but it had like little squares in it, and we would just run that across the top of the frame of the table and just let the plants grow into it. And then
it's like that cheap plastic fencing.
Yeah,
that's what people would use it for. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because it's like a grid, a metal grid, but you don't want to say grill. It's not a grill. It's difficult to describe exactly what it is. But you'll find it if you look for just in the metal section, the metal fencing section, but you can buy on a roll. Usually, you can find something that's good, but that is can be used for a scrog. But I mean, I've got a real nice diary. I've got the montage actually, which we bring up on occasion. It will show you the whole process of a scrog grow. I did a screen of green Jack Herer grow before Jack Herers underneath it, and I trained them into a scrog, and you can see step by step as it gets done. So as I said, I'd let the plants grow, top them, say about 4 or 5 weeks. I'll put the screen over the top of them, and then I'll start letting the plants grow upwards through the screen. And each time it goes a couple of inches over the top of the screen, so it's growing through it, comes up a couple of inches, you'll grab that branch and pull it back down and tuck it back underneath the screen again.
So, just pop it down to the next hole is all you're doing. Just pop it to the next hole and let it run. And
that's it. You don't weave it in between squares or anything like that. You just simply pull it down and move it as far as you can throughout the screen, just spreading the plant out as much as possible.
Yeah, first time I did a scrog, I actually thought you had to weave it in and out. And of course, I was happy to learn I did not have to do that. So
Cool. But that's pretty much the whole process. There's some things that you need to take into consideration when you're doing this, when you're doing the scrubbing. If you're growing in a big tent where you can't reach the back of it, then you're going to need to have access to the back and the sides as well. You know, if you can't reach to a specific section in your plant from the front, I mean, a 2x4 is going to be pretty easy. You're going to be able to reach anything. But when you get to a 4x4, 5x5, these kind of tents, you're not going to be able to reach from one side to the other to do the training that's necessary. So you need to have the side doors on it, or like them Mars Hydro tents that got side doors on, so you can get to the back and to the sides nice and easy. So take that into consideration too, and don't have it put right up against the wall because you're going to have to get around there sometimes. So it can be a squeeze, but it is definitely worth doing it. So just make sure you can reach to the back, because you don't want that back just growing out of control while you're training the rest of it.
true.
So I mean, what else can we say about scrogging, really? I mean, that is pretty much how it's done and what kind of net you're going to need.
Yeah.
And how
Now,
to trim. Sorry, man.
beginner mistake I made was always trying to conserve height in the tent. I also didn't consider the fact that the scrog net was going to conserve the height. And so I did my scrog net as I would normally do any other training, which means that the net was pretty close to the bottom, close to the pot. So when it came time to do the lollipop and clean out underneath the scrog, it was a lot harder than it had to be. Because if I would have just raised everything up a little bit and left a little bit of working room under there, you know, that working room that allows me to water the plants easier and get rid of the waste and all that stuff. So planning your scrog, take a look at what you got and understand that your canopy is not going to be much more than a foot taller than the top of the scrog. So you got plenty of room in your tent. So make it easy on yourself.
Well, you're going to have if you're growing in cocoa or something, make sure that you've got an easy way to get the runoff out, because as we said, the plants can't be moved once they're in that scrog. So you're going to have so if you're in trays, just have them on a little slope so the water runs to the front of the tent. You can get it out from the front there. And
you
we've
have to be able to get a watering wand back in there to get your pots. If your net's too low, you won't be able to water your pots.
Yeah. So it's like around a foot for the pots, and then another foot gap there, or maybe even a foot and a half. 18 inches is cool. If you put the screen there and let your plants grow into it, that's plenty of room to move around and do things.
Nice.
So when you start when you're training this plant, you know, it grows up and it will grow real fast as well. Every couple of days you have to go in there and readjust everything, and it can take a while when the plants are big. If you're doing it in a 4x4, you can be in your tent for a couple of hours just moving everything around to the next square, and that'll be happening every few days. After about 6 weeks, you've done all your training and the screen is around 2/3 full. About 70% is cool. Then you know, you got the edges left, you got a little bit of space around the sides and in the corners. Then that's going to be where you want to flip it to flower, because over them 2 weeks of stretch, when it's in the scrog, it will fill the rest of that scrog and get an inch or two over the top of it as well. And this will be strain dependent to some extent, because some strains will stretch more than others. But I think that's just about the right kind of estimate. You don't want to overfill it, because if it just grows too tall above the screen, airflow is going to be a problem. Just knowing when to flip it to flower and when to stop training. And my favorite place to stop training is just as the flowers start to form. So about 10 days after the flip, usually. Let the stretch happen, and then keep an eye out for the flowers forming. And don't train into the scrog much longer than that, because you actually need that little bit to grow above the screen, 1 or 2 inches to grow above the screen as well, because that's where the flower's going to grow. Once you're there, you just chop off everything else underneath the screen, which sounds crazy, you know, but it really does help with airflow and feeding all the good shit to the good parts of the plant that are getting the light that needs it.
Yeah, and you want to make sure not to do that lollipop underneath your scrog until after you have flowers. If you do it before, you will have twice as much stuff to train above.
Yeah,
it'll cause an explosive stretch.
So it's best not to trim anything off until the stretch is finished, and that's throughout the whole lot of vegetable. Once it's topped, just put that screen over it and let it do its thing. Train whatever is grown, you keep in until after the flip and after the stretch. And then you want to get rid of everything else underneath the screen.
And you have nice white fluffy flowers on top.
Then you just let it do its thing. You just let it grow. You don't train anymore after that. And if you do, it can get dangerous because you can break stems easier when they've gone into flower for a bit.
Yeah, you may have to do a little bit of slight defoliation on the top every now and then to get rid of some excess leaves for airflow, but nothing much major after that. It's just pretty much autopilot. Scrog can get boring.
Yeah, definitely. But once you've gone past when the stretch is finished, when your training days are done, but the training days are hard. You can be in there. I mean, I was in there every day at some point for like a week, just retraining. It takes fucking ages, man. It takes a lot of time. Yeah. But it only at certain times. For the first 4 or 5 weeks, you're not really doing much, just tucking things now and again. And then growth will explode when you get to a certain stage of veg, and you just keep training.
Now, the thinning out under the screen was my most unfavorite part. Because I was so low there. I'm used to taking plants out of my tent to do the trimming and the lollipop and everything, and then putting them back in. So all of a sudden, I found myself laying on the floor looking up. Yeah, it was kind of a weird thing, you know.
I thought that, like, would it be easy? You know, you see in the movies on the TV all the time, somebody's working on a car, they've got that skateboard they lie on, slide under the car, slide back out. Yeah, like the guy out of Half-Baked, isn't it? Like, get me a tin foil, a toilet roll, and a toothpick. That guy, you know. It just comes out from underneath the car. So I thought many times how I need one of those, and I just try and squeeze your way around the fucking pots to get right to the back, and you're stretching up. Oh man, god damn.
And actually cleaning out under the net only takes about maybe 30 minutes, but you know, I remember not enjoying it very much.
No, it takes me fucking ages. Well, I suppose you're only in a small tent, but when
2x4 straight across the front, when I've got the around and around and around like you do.
When I've got that whole 4x4 with the 4 plants in it, and they've been vegging for 6-7 weeks, and they've just gone through their stretch and all ready to be chopped, I'm there for fucking hours, man. I'd load up a long ass podcast and I'd sit there for hours, just snip. I'd take everything off underneath, and it'll be shown on that video again. If you check out if you search YouTube for Jack Herrer montage, you'll find it for sure. And it will show you step by step what it looks like when it's real bushy underneath the screen, and then how much you take off. And you're taking off like 2/3 of the plant.
It's a big bucket of leaves massive. You take off. Big.
And you know, that's good to put into your worm farm. The worms love that shit. And you'd even take off buds that are growing there, little buds and shit, because you don't want the plant wasting energy on things down the bottom there. You want it to spend all the energy on making the good buds at the top of the screen. That's what you're doing the whole thing for. So, and that even canopy can look beautiful, man.
First time I did it, my missus was very impressed. When I opened that tent, mouth just dropped wide open, like, wow. I mean, because it's literally a sea of buds.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just absolutely no wasted space at all.
Wall to wall.
Yeah, man. It's good shit. I recommend everybody tries it because it looks real nice. It's the best way to, you know, it's the most efficient way to use your grow space. You'll use every inch of it this way. There won't be, you know, any light getting through to the bottom and bouncing off the floor. It just goes straight into the plants.
And that's what the commercial growers told me all about it. First time I saw it, a commercial grower, the guy says, if you got light passing through your plant and hit the bottom on your floor, you're wasting money.
And sometimes the buds can grow a bit too tall once you've flipped them, and you don't want to be bending the stems and stuff. So on occasion, people would use a net to try and support the buds above that. So there's like 2 screens in. You might see that sometimes, but the screen at the top doesn't have to be 3.5 centimeters. That's just going to be like a net just for support in that way. When a screen is more for training the plant. You know, it's really easy to make your own. It just takes a little bit of skill. There's different ways of doing it as well. You can either use wood and the metal frame, or you can use the PVC pipe set like Bubble Hawk said, and you can just use some string in those. They're easy to do.
I just use the PVC glue, put it together. You can get the 90-degree corners. You can just make it all the right size exactly to fit just inside the inside of a 4x4, 4x8, whatever it has to be. And then, just a touch of glue in them and stick them together, and away you go.
I just I used cup hooks along the PVC pipes that all I had to do was really quickly just take the string and just it strings it so fast. That
Mm.
way, when you're done, just cut it off. Every time, put a new string, new screen up. Perfect, easy.
I
Lots of
normally
ways you
just
can do this, and it doesn't cost a lot of money.
I normally just put a couple of screws. So I'll just do this like just a standard screw into it.
That works too.
Into the PVC, and then you can just wrap around it, you know, and you just mark out your grid along the outside, drill the holes in, and just start knitting away.
Pretty much, it works.
So that's pretty much it. You know, you've got your 4 plants or however many plants underneath a screen, like we've said, like a metal grid, 3.5 centimeters each square, which is however long your tent is. And then you just letting the plant grow, and as it grows upwards into the screen, you're just tucking it back down and spreading it out sideways. That's pretty much what you're doing for about 3 or 4 weeks. Then the flip comes, then you train for another week or so after that, and then you stop and let the rest of the plant just grow a little bit over the top of the screen, and that's about it. You're done. It is easy. It just takes time. It takes a lot of patience, you know, and then after that flip, where you've got to take off 2/3 of the plant growth, it takes a lot of balls as well. You know, at first you think you're going to cause a lot of damage to your plant, but they will recover from everything. They are very hardy plants.
And one thing we didn't talk about is one good thing to use a scrog for is, let's say you're growing something like, I've got strawberry cough in the tent right now that actually is way too tall for what I'm doing. That should have been scrogged. So if you have something like a leggy sativa or a tall plant that you want to grow in a small tent, the scrog can easily help you control the height.
Yeah, it's a great way to control the height, man. What strains don't scrog well besides your musty? All strains will scrog well. You know,
You can even
in my
scrog
opinion.
an auto, man. Autos will scrog if you do it right.
Yes,
They definitely will.
It's like saying scrog.
yeah, it is difficult to squeeze into the tent as well. You know, you're trying to get around everything and make sure that's done, and you have to do it low down usually. You know, you might do it on a desk or something, and then it'll be higher up off the ground, but still, it's a lot of, you know, back bending and training shit, and it can do you back in. So be careful with that too. But it's definitely recommended if you haven't done it before, or if you haven't seen one before, then you should definitely get yourself a scrog up and running. It's a great way to grow, and you'll get some pucker buds out of it. Sorry, Monkey.
Don't need a 4x4 to scrog. You can scrog in a 2x2. I mean, you can one plant will scrog if that's what you want to do.
Yeah,
you can scrog 4, you can scrog 8 if you want to do it.
60 centimeter tent, 1 plant in it, in a nice little screen of green. Beautiful.
Nice way to grow, actually, in a little 4 foot tall tent. You know, with short tent, you can keep that height really well with a scrog.
Yeah.
And you know, that's what, 4 or 5 ounces of bud at the end
Yeah,
of,
man,
end of that,
for sure.
all for one plant.
You're not stuck with just using a tent for it either. You can always do it outside. You can always set yourself up a scrog outside and do it. Not that many people would, but if you're going for stealth and you want to try and keep it low, it is a good option for if you've got a big bed outside that you're growing in, you want to try and keep that low and below a fence line. That works. I know a few people that do it here.
Ross Greentham says, I did 6 in a room. Fucking nice. How'd you reach the back, bro?
He did it. That's all we got to know, huh?
You just got to be able to walk around it all, but it's worth it, man. It's just so efficient, but it takes time. I mean, I'd say it's worth it and you should do it. And I've done it many times, but it's not like I've done it on my last couple of grows. It's just, I don't know, having to reach around the back and do all that shit. And then actually
in the back. All right.
and then actually raising the screen and shit, that's gonna be a pain in the ass as well. And I have mine, because that's another point we should bring up as well, is how do you actually hang the net in there, or the screen. And some people build legs on it so it would stand on the ground, and but I think that takes up room in the tent, and it's difficult to adjust the height of it. Then you need a lot of books to put under the legs, you know, if you need it higher. But what I do is just use some ratchet straps around the top of the tent, like where the light is hung, and then you can just adjust the height of the scrog whenever you need to. Then you just click in the ratchet straps. That's a nice, easy way to get things done. Good way to support it without taking up room at the bottom of the tent as well.
I just zip tie my frame to the corner poles. I built the frame so fits just perfectly inside. Just 4 zip ties. And when I'm done, again, just like I did with the string, cut them out, take the frame, comes out easy.
Yeah, that's what we did. Zip ties are fantastic.
Zip ties for the win.
Yep.
See, what I do with mine at the end as well when it comes to harvest time is I'll just chop the plants right at the base, and then I'll just flip the scrog upside down, and because it's a metal screen rather than being made of string, you put the ratchet strap in the middle, flip it up on itself like a coin flip, and then no offense, Marsh.
Come on, too soon.
And then just flip it over and it's done. It's ready to hang, just like that. You can trim off a lot of the leaves if you want to at that point. Nice, easy way to harvest the plants as well. And then even if you do it different, you can chop off all the buds at the top and then collect them all, trim them. You can flip the scrog around and just use or raise it up a bit, and you can just use that to hang all your plants on or all your buds and shit to let them dry. So that's another a good way of using your scrog. So it's all round win-win so far. It's like it just takes the stretching. Make sure you can get to the back of your tent, and they're stuck in there when they're in there. But if you ain't gonna move your plants, if they're fine where they are, if you're a legal grower, for example, and you can just grow your plants legally, no trouble. Doing a scrog would be
We don't give a fuck.
No, or you don't give a fuck. Yeah. Then doing a scrog, it's a real nice hobby as well. It keeps you busy. It's like a bonsai that you actually like, rather than growing a plant for 50 years and training it every 2 years. It's good shit. Definitely recommended. Is there anything else we should add here for the screen of green? Anybody got any important information that we're missing? No? No, I don't think so either. I think it's all pretty much covered, but just recommend that you try it. That you get a scrog, you can build it yourself. If you need any help, to come over to Percy's and we can help you out over there. Check out that video on Percy's Grow Room's YouTube channel it's on. But if you just search for Jack Herrer Grow Diary, then you'll find it and you'll be able to see the scrog that I have and how to run through the whole grow. It starts from seedling all the way up to harvest, man. So you'll see step by step, and it'll help you understand what's going on. But it's definitely something everybody should try because you'll be massively impressed with your grow skills. Yeah, but
it's not my grow-to technique. It's a technique I visit from time to time, put it that way. But yeah, it's good to know. I love learning all these different things. Like I just tried my first sog. It failed miserably, but doesn't mean I'm not going to try again.
That's right, man. Can you uniscrog, multi-scrog? You can, sorry. Chilbert says you can uniscrog, multi-uniscrog. Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, that is a way, but it's not the same as having one whole screen. Because some branches might grow longer than the others, and you need to stretch them into like where the other plants are growing, so they weave together a little bit like that. So it's a little different.
It's an option. I've seen several growers at Percy's come up with different ways to attach that scrog net to the pot. So it's kind of neat when they do that.
I've seen guys do it on like a lazy Susan as well. So like they'll put the plant on top of the lazy Susan and then they can just spin the whole plant, scrog included. So everything's attached to the pot basically. And then they just spin the plant in the tent.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's good shit, man. I mean, I did a big scrog of that one lemon haze mother I had. I think that was the last scrog I did. And that was fucking huge, man. It's like one plant was in 75 liters of soil, just growing underneath a scrog.
75, holy fuck.
Yeah, it's massive it was, mate. Still got that pot as well. I think I might do that again. But it's good shit. Check out the video, and if you have any questions, head over to percyscrogging.com and we'll be able to help you out if you're thinking about getting a scrog up and running. But we do highly recommend that you do it. It's a nice, efficient way to grow, and you'll make the most out of your space. So do some scrogging. We do have questions that we should be answering as well. From Gonzo over on Percy's, he said, when is my seedling considered in veg? Like, when do I turn up my light? So yeah, it's about the question, really. Anybody want to take this away? No?
Yeah.
I like no 2 or no 3 is what I'll call it. out of the seedling stage and into veg,
I say when it's, and you can't tell, but when like the first few weeks, maybe 1 or 2 weeks of a plant's life is usually is mostly spent, the energy is growing the roots. That's why you don't see a ton of growth up top, and then all of a sudden it just is like blah,
Yeah.
When it does that, that's veg in my opinion. The seedling is kind of just getting set, and then veg is like, let's fucking give her, ready to go.
Yeah, it's I've seen like Jorge Cervantes and Ed Rosenthal. Them guys will recommend like it's considered the seedling for 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, it's a bit long.
Yeah, I thought
In
that
my
when I read
opinion.
it. I mean, I think after about a week, once you start developing them true sets of leaves, say it's about 2 nodes high. If I could put my camera on, I'll show you because I've got some which I think right now are about I was stepping out of the seedling stage and going into that veg stage. And they're about maybe 3 weeks old. I think that's definitely well, when you're 3 weeks old, you're definitely in the veg stage at that point. They're out of the seedling stage, and I think you're right there, TG, with the roots as well. It's more about the roots, how big the roots are.
In the beginning, yeah.
Anybody else want to add any? When do you consider yours to be in veg, March? Or you're just do autos? So
Yeah, I've been doing autos and the micro grows. So when you're doing the micro grows, obviously you're just doing the 12-12 light cycle the whole time.
you're in
Keeps it
veg
very
until the
simple.
flowers come. Yeah.
Yeah.
So TG, when do you consider your photo periods to be in seedling? Is there a specific number of weeks, or does it depend on what strain you're growing?
Well, pseudo scientifically, for me, it's when I know that they're not going to just die for like some weird reason.
Yeah.
They're very delicate in the beginning due to like being able to dry out. If you miss one watering, you can potentially kill a seedling because you don't want to overwater them, but you don't want to water them too little, right? So it's a very delicate balance, I find, to really, keep them healthy and stuff. After you can start like saturating the pot and really kind of stop giving a fuck, essentially. That's to me, and and usually about 1.5 to 2 weeks is when I kind of am okay with things once they're going.
Cool. What were you saying, Monkey? What about you?
Like I said, it was about 3 nodes high is where I'll go with it. And same exact reasons you're all talking about, because by the time the plant is starting to build that 3rd node, usually I start plants in smaller, like solo cups. And that root base has already filled the cup up and the plant's starting to accelerate its growth. So at that point, it's in veg to me.
Yeah. So there we go, Gonzo. About 2 or 3 weeks in. We also have something from Fish here. He said, when is the right time to add PK1314 and when to stop? You use PK1314, right, Monkey?
I do. Actually, I use a different formula, but I use a PK just because mine is stronger. I just use a little bit less, but I start the PK at a 1/4 strength recommended when I start seeing true flowers. And then I'll up that up to about 50% recommended rate around mid flower. And then I start tapering that back down toward the end of flower and eliminate it for the last 2 weeks completely.
When you said 1/4 there, for you was like talking about half. So you're talking about?
Yeah, but half. Yeah, exactly. half label recommendation. No, but I don't want to go in full strength with PK. I've found at least the PK that I use, if I come in too strong with it, I get burned pistils real fast. The pistils will start turning orange on me and dying off prematurely.
Yeah,
So
I would
anytime I start seeing that, I back off PK.
When I started seeing flowers, I'd use PK13. I don't right now because I'm growing in soil organically, so I'm not really using anything like that. It's all in the soil in the first place. But when it was in cocoa days, I'd start as soon as I start to see flowers forming, then I'd be like, them flowers need food. So that's when you want to put the PK1314 in. And I'll do the same as you. I'll start with 1/4 dose.
Yeah. You really don't want to overfeed cannabis because that's one of the worst things you can do. You'll find out as a home grower that these fertilizer companies are really trying to make money off of you. You don't need that stuff, and the plants grow better if you feed it less.
And a lot of these companies they made their fertilizers and nutrients for vegetables. And cannabis isn't a vegetable. It don't need to produce these thick, massive fruits that a lot of vegetable plants do. It's a herb, so it doesn't need as much food as a vegetable plant needs. So you try not to feed it too much. It's better to feed not enough than too much.
We always recommend for any stage of growth, start off at about a quarter strength on the bottle and then work your way up from there. That way you won't burn your plants and kill them right out the gate.
Mhm.
So you can always add. It's harder to take it back.
What about you with the autos, Marge? Well, you're in living soil as well, aren't you?
Yeah, so I don't really worry about anything usually.
And same for you, TG.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
don't really need it, do we? So it's just you, Monkey. Then we have one from Gillette here, our member of the month. Sup, Gillette? Question for Mackie. Did you ever work out the name of the strain in the unmarked pot you said tasted like the Sweets Refreshers? And when I read this question, I was like, damn, yeah, remember that fucking But no, I still don't know what the fuck it was. It was probably a pink starburst or something, man. It's something fucking, I wish I knew what it was. But damn. But even still, the recent lemon tree that I had, which is now gone, but I've got one to, maybe two, I think I've got two to take down. And they smell just like the previous ones did, so I'm happy about that. But yeah, that lemon tree is the dog's bollocks, man. And I'd rate that over the ones which tasted like refreshers, really, because that was the good shit. So try that lemon tree from Barney's Farm if anybody wants to check something out. But yeah, still no idea what it was. I haven't even thought about it until you brought it up. But that was a nice strain too, whatever it was. But that was a nice phenotype of that strain. You know, you can't really tell if it was that particular strain. You just might have got lucky with one plant from that one seed. It's not very often you come across plants that fucking tasty. But do try out the lemon tree. That one has been a consistent nice one. So I do like that. Then we have a question there from Dan the Indoor Man. Got a question about the LST episode. When you break a branch, is that HST, high stress training? And how can I use that to my advantage?
How to break a branch to his advantage?
Yeah, I mean, when you break a branch for high stress training methods like that, then it's not really you're snapping it. You're breaking the inside of the branch.
Yeah.
And you don't want to break the skin on the outside. If you break the skin on the outside, then it's possible that mold spores can get in there, and that will travel around the plant until it gets to the nice juicy bud section and start growing on the inside of the plant there. So, and you don't want that to happen, man. Yeah. So when you're trying to do these high stress training techniques like monster cropping and super cropping and shit like that, where you're breaking stems, then you just have to squeeze it so the inside of the fibers of the branch break rather than the skin on the outside.
Yeah, you want to take a piece of the stem that's not woody yet, still got a good bit of green in it. But like Mackie says, it's scary first time. You put your fingers on it and start squeezing, and all of a sudden it's going to give and just pop in your fingers. And the whole stem will just kind of wants to flop over at that point because you've taken all the interior tissue and just mashed it to goo, basically. And the plant will recover. But that allows you to bend that stem and you can tie it down in any position you want, and it'll recover and it'll build a knuckle right there and have increased vigor through that knuckle. And
you can, if you've got a problem with training as well, if there's just one branch that won't stay down, then you can squeeze it to break the branch on the inside, and then you can bring that like 90 degrees all the way down then.
Yeah. But when you're super cropping like that, a lot of times you'll have to tie them down or anchor them down because sometimes they'll want to heal themselves and pop right back up. These plants are strong and resilient, these things.
It is shocking how quickly it'll fix itself and just look like nothing even happened. So make sure you tie them down properly if you're doing that kind of thing. And it can happen a lot when you're using them fucking bends, man. Bends can be a bastard. They can either fully break your branch, or they can like super crop it as it grows, because the plant will fatten out and the branch will push against the plastic bends and force them outwards, and that kind of super crops them. When that gets wooden, then you can take it off. That's what I do. But yeah, I know I said bends can be a bastard, but they are good. Do get get 50 of them just lying around. It's always good to have, just because it makes everything so easy when you come to training them. Or if you got that one branch that just wants to take the piss and grow taller than the rest, just stick a bend on it. So they're good to have around. But high stress training methods like that, I don't know. I wouldn't really recommend them. I wouldn't say it was really necessary when you can just do scrogs. What do you think, TJ? Have you ever done any of these high stress training techniques?
Not really. I top. That's a high stress training.
Yeah.
And I chop off branches where I need to, or if they annoy me. But no, I don't do much super cropping or kind of any of that kind of shit. I just, like I said, I grow lots of plants, so generally my tent is full, just with a couple small modifications. So yeah, I don't know. Once I find it's less work, I do bend. I top my plant, and as the branches start growing out, I'll stick in like plant, spike things, metal things into the soil, and either pull the branches down underneath them like they're hoops, or else use a plant tie to pull them down. But no, I just grow plants with fucking Hulk Hogan level fucking stems, so you don't need any support. You know what I mean?
And if you've got proper wind flow and fans hitting your plant and shit, they will grow branches and stems that are strong enough to hold themselves up. It's not very often you need support if it's grown with a proper fan in the room.
Can be done, yeah.
And it's hard work when you got lots of plants as well. You can't scrog fucking 12 plants. That'd be a mission.
Well, if you were to do that efficiently, you'd probably be growing in like a fucking, a room, a giant room.
You're not in a 4x4.
Yeah. Because even with one topping, the plants branch out quite a bit, and they fill up a 4x4. I only get usually about 3 by 3. 9 plants is kind of my comfortable thing I do. So yeah,
Sweet.
that fills it.
Well, I think that is all the questions. We did have one in the chat there which popped up, I think. Where was that? Oh, here from Pollinated High. What are your thoughts on stem stabbing? I just read something about it and I'm not sure if it's real or bro science. That is full on bro science, bro. You don't be stabbing your branches and shit.
Stem stabbing?
Well, you never heard that? No, right,
Stem
putting a
splitting.
nail in the stem.
I've
Yeah.
heard of that one.
Splitting the
I'm
stem
thinking
wide open,
more like-
drilling a hole in it, that kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
shit. Yeah.
I was thinking in my mind it was like acupuncture, kind of like
No.
everywhere. Yeah,
They
don't
say
stab your
stress the
stem.
plant before you harvest it like 2 days earlier, and it's supposed to go crazy and produce a resin. But look,
Yeah.
if it worked, everybody'd be doing it already.
Yeah. Ice cubes on your soil, bullshit. Stabbing your
Mhm.
stem.
Oh man, that plants hate ice cubes on your soil.
Bro science.
Cannabis does not like ice cold water on its roots.
No, nothing does. Do you
No.
like it on you? So
No,
Well,
it's
I
just
mean-
like if it's like anything else, man. If it seems like that just don't make sense, it's probably because it don't fucking work. So
Yeah.
somebody's like, stab the branches, split the stem in half. It's like that don't sound like it would work. It's probably because it don't fucking work.
No, if it
Yeah.
worked, everybody'd be doing it. It'd be out there. So I mean,
Yeah.
if
It would
they're
be
having to
in-
convince you to do it, nah,
Yeah.
it don't work.
Best way to make good weed is have happy plants
That's
for
it.
the whole way. Don't stress them. Let them do their thing naturally.
yeah.
That's right. Stabbing it is not going to make it happy.
No.
Not at all.
But there you go. So
Some
Would
people
you
like
be
that.
happy if somebody stabbed you?
no.
Well, I was just
I
gonna
would
say
not.
there are some people maybe.
There are some
Exactly,
people
yeah.
like them kids out Scream 1. Remember
They're the outliers though. So
that? Yeah, that's right. That's right. So it depends on the phenotype.
Right. Yeah.
Look, bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, I think that
That's
is all
better
the
one.
questions we have for today. So thanks for all the questions, everybody. And that is Scrogging as well. If you have any questions at all, you can find us over at percysgrowing.com or on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Just search for High and Homegrown and we'll be able to help you out. But yes, we're going to have a week off next week. Don't forget, everybody, we're going on Sunday. There will not be a live show. And instead of the cannabis news on the Monday and the grow guides on Friday, that will be interviews as well, because we've got lots of interviews to get out there to everybody. And everybody seems to really like them as well. Yeah, we do have good interviews. So they get the most amount of downloads out of all of our shows. People enjoy the interviews more than anything.
Yeah,
Well, it's always cool to hear what people are doing out there in the cannabis world, right? So
we don't really do interviews. We like to have good conversations with people. We want to know a little bit about them, not just ask questions. So yeah, that's our style. And everybody we do that with seems to want to come back. So that's a good thing.
We have this week Professor Mike Barnes on Tuesday and
Mm-hmm.
Andrew D'Angelo, who's Steve D'Angelo's brother, on Thursday.
That'll be interesting.
And then on Monday next week, which is on the 13th, we have Captain Matt from the Worm Farm channel. She's pretty cool. And then, yeah, Chris Trump's coming back on the 21st. Riso Rich is another one which we've had scheduled, which is on the 30th. And then Lucky Yates on the 5th of July is also another good one, who's Dr. K from the TV show Archer. So very cool.
That's cool.
Got
We
some
got
cool interviews
Spartan
coming
Grown
up.
coming back on the, what is it, the 16th
Mhm.
to talk to us. Be nice. Got a lot of good ones coming up.
Yeah, man. Very good, very good. And we've got some good ones in the background that need to come out as well, because we do 2 a week, but only release 1 a week. So it's kind of got a backlog. And there's some good ones which we want to get out there. So we want to get that done next week too. So mission. It's always lots of work. But everybody enjoys it, so it's all good. Yeah, Chris Trump I think he's over in Ireland right now, Chris Trump. That's where he was heading. And that's where he will be when we do the interview. He'll be in Ireland somewhere.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've taken some of Chris Trump's advice and I've applied the JMS stuff that he talked to us about in the interview to my citrus trees. I have never seen lemon trees pray like that before in my life. I came out the next morning after putting JMS down, soaking the soil in JMS on that lemon tree. And I looked at the tree and said, what is this? I mean, every leaf was pointing to the sky. Unbelievable stuff. Had pineapples that were kind of like lost their vigor from the winter and stuff. They were kind of just pale and just put the JMS on them. The next day they were standing proud and greener than can be, man. This stuff works. I'm sold. I'm a believer. I got more questions next time we talk, Toby and Mackie. Got lots of stuff to ask now, man. You know, he's opened a can of worms. I got to figure out some stuff now.
But yeah, man, it's going to be an interesting conversation. And he's always happy to sit and chat with us. He's a good guy, man. I like Chris.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm looking forward to that one next week on Monday as well. So there we go, everybody. That was Scrogging. I hope you learned a lot from this episode. It's very difficult to explain exactly what Scrogging is with just audio only. So if you head over to Percy's Grow Room YouTube channel, there's a video there that will show you step by step everything you need to do to make your own scrog grow. And it looks real nice. It's an easy way to grow, but there's certain parts of it that are going to be a little bit difficult. So if you want to do a scrog, head over and watch that video over on the YouTube channel. It'll make a lot of sense and it will explain a lot of things that you listen to in this episode too. But I highly recommend you get your own scrog up and running. So do that and you'll see it's a real nice way to grow. You'll enjoy it. But in the meantime, don't forget we don't have a live show on Sunday this week. We're just going to have interviews coming out all next week. So make sure you tune in for the interviews next week. So for now, enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend. Stay high, stay safe. Don't forget to come and sign up to Percy's Grow Room if you haven't done that already. And share this episode with friends. That would be massively appreciated. So I'll catch you next week on Monday for an interview. Nice. See you then. Have a good weekend, everybody. Goodbye.